What's up everyone, welcome to Tech Savvy Buyer. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the Inwin 905, but just before we do, let's get a quick word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by GVGMall.com. GVG Mall carries a wide variety of game currencies and gift cards that you could use to take your gaming to the next level. If you're looking for a fresh copy of Windows or Microsoft Office, then you can certainly find those on GVGMall.com as well. They are priced very competitively and offer legit copies of Microsoft software. You can pick up a copy of Windows 10 Pro for under $15. Visit GVGMall.com for more information and use code TSB to save during checkout. Alright, so before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out to Inwin for sending over this case for review. I absolutely loved this case, although it does have its quirks which other reviewers have covered in the past regarding this case. However, overall it was a pretty much delightful build. I took the liberty to go ahead and do a custom loop inside this build just to see how much room I really have to work and what are the nuances. And I think when it comes to reviewing a case really adequately, when you actually build inside the case and you do more complicated stuff that other people would probably want to do with a case like this, being that it is a premium case priced at $300, it only made sense for me to go ahead and try something different with it, as opposed to just doing an all-in-one cooler or, some other type of layout, which of course you can also do in this case, but you get the point. Anyways, not to ramble off, so let's start off with the good of this case, and then after that we'll kind of transition into what things I didn't enjoy about this case particularly, and afterwards I'll pretty much give you guys a verdict on what I think about this case. However, obviously you guys are more than welcome to make your decision based on the stuff that I am about to share. So first off, let's just look at the looks of this case and the overall build quality. This thing is machined in a solid sheet of aluminum and it gives a very, very nice brushed finish all throughout the entire case. So by no means when you look at this case does it scream, I'm cheap in any regard whatsoever. It's very, very solidly built, and I think of all the cases I've built from Inwin, this is one thing I generally notice, that they put a lot of effort in their build quality, and most of their cases really hold up well in all the builds that I've done in the past. So there's no reason for me to doubt that the 905 is not going to hold up well. And J2Sense even did his own rig in a 925, and that's also a very, very solid case. So not to digress, but the point is, build quality wise, there's no shortage of craftsmanship in this case. The other thing that I really liked about this case is that the IO panel is in the front on the side. So usually when most people have their computer, it's typically on your right side. Again, this can be up for debate, but most people typically tend to have the PC on the right side and your monitor in front. And so when you're turning on your computer, it's really convenient to have the IO panel right here versus having it in the front. It's also at table level or desk height. So that makes it really easy to plug in any kind of USB devices since there are two 3.0 ports in the front. Along with 3.0 ports, there's also a USB Type-C port, which is really convenient. You have a microphone port and a headphone jack, as well as a little button that you can use to adjust the front OLED screen. That's another really cool thing about this case. There's a little mini OLED screen that you can actually program to display whatever you want. You can put custom images on there, custom text on there, have it display certain temperatures of things you're monitoring, and there's software to do that. I personally didn't mess around with that too much because the stuff that's already built in was plenty for my needs. So as you press that button, you can cycle through the different things it'll show, and it's actually pretty cool. Not something typically you see on other cases. Now, another cool thing about this case is it comes pre-installed with 3 RGB Serious Loop fans. These are actually very nice and high quality fans. If you want to pick up additional ones like I did for this build, or actually Inwin sent those over, so huge shout out to Inwin again, but if you want to pick up additional, you can grab them online and they're actually very reasonably priced. They have addressable RGB, they have a good sound curve on the different speeds that you can get, and overall they're pretty easy to use. The wiring can be a little bit messy, but that's fine. Now, speaking of wiring, I loved the amount of space that you get inside the power supply bay to kind of tuck in all your wires. So this is one of those type of cases that does give you plenty of options to route your cables throughout the side of the chassis and zip tie them at different points. But basically the bulges that you'll have left if you're using extensions or if you're not using, custom made cables, you can just kind of fin them in right behind the PSU without anything bad happening to it. So there's good cable management on the side. I wish they would have included some grommets inside the actual frame of the board. That is one thing that lacks, and I think other YouTubers pointed that out as well. And honestly, Inwin, if you guys are watching, it's a $300 case. Rubber grommets are not really expensive. I think it would be a good touch in the future to include that as a revision in an updated version of the 905. So let's talk about water cooling in this case, because that is what I ended up doing. Now, water cooling in this case is going to require you to do a lot of homework up front. You're going to need to know how much space you have exactly inside for what you're trying to do. this case does not work well with super thick radiators. So if you're trying to do super thick radiators, or if you've already bought that, I would say steer away from this case, because you're really only going to be able to fit one. And like I have here, I could only fit one 240 mil. This is the PE 240 PE Coolstream from EK. And that's all I was able to fit in there. Now I had a 361 as well, and I could not get that to fit on the bottom. I actually had to end up carrying out all my entire build while doing it because it wouldn't allow for easy piping in it. Now, when it comes to supporting reservoirs and stuff, I did manage to squeeze in a 280 mil reservoir inside this, but I think it was really geared towards using a distro plate instead that has a DDC pump built into it. Again, you could see I put in a D5 pump from Bixby as well as the reservoir from EK, but it's really tight. And so it required a lot of maneuvering. Ultimately, I was able to get it done, but I had to do some serious bends and make some serious kind of loops that just got everything working together. It wasn't as straightforward and easy, and it ended up taking me a lot more time than I had really planned to put into this case. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't support it. You absolutely can. You can even have your GPU block running. You can even have your CPU block running. Depending on what you choose for your layout, you will have some complications in getting your piping going through or your tubing going through. So in this example, you can see I'm using a Radeon RX 590 GPU, and it's only a double fan blower style. If I had 3 fans on this, it would be extending all the way here, which means it would have been almost impossible for me to place a radiator on the bottom of it, and I'd actually have to end up pushing it towards the front of it. When you push it towards the front, again, you start to have the same issues on depending on where you have your tubing outlets, if it's cross flow or if it's straight flow, just really going to depend on how you do it. I would definitely say that this case would be more friendly if you're going to use cross flow radiators as opposed to just using straight flow radiators. That is definitely a con in my book that most people who are probably looking to purchase a case like this and spend 300 bucks or kind of do water cooling with it or something. And the only real options you have are sticking with a distro plate that has a DDC pump built into it so that it's a lot more cleaner to use and get cleaner lines going just straight into that plate. Now, doing a custom loop like this is really tough, and ultimately, to me, I think it could have looked, or it would have looked a lot better with just using a distro plate in it instead. Aside from that, if you're not going to do a custom loop, this is actually very friendly for anyone who's trying to do an all-in-one build. Now, you can easily fit a 360 radiator on the bottom and have enough space for your tube to get up to your CPU, or on the front of the panel as well. They have really easy detachable plates that come out, and you can screw your radiator or all-in-one unit into that. So it makes it really easy for an install. Installing stuff in this was generally very, very easy. I didn't have any trouble installing anything inside the case, and the amount of space you have to do your cable management was excellent. And you can see it's actually relatively really neat. Doesn't have a lot of mess and cables going on in the front that make it look sloppy, or make it complicated to get your cables routed through. There's plenty of space for the wires, even when like I said, in the back, it's tucked in, it's really neat. The other cool thing about this is the back of the case has the ports for your entire IO shield in the back recessed in. That means that you can kind of get this as close to the wall as possible without damaging the pins of your cables that are plugged into it, whether it's your Ethernet or whether it's your USB cords. They plug in pretty easily, and you got plenty of space to do that. Same thing with your GPU card. In the back, it's recessed in. It just gives you much more space. Now, I think from a design perspective, while it looks great and may be functional, if they had brought this out, it would have given us more room on the inside to actually do the build. That's the same thing I noticed on all panels of this. They're basically shrinking the internals of it from the back and the front and even the top. So the top here is basically where it essentially stops. There isn't any flow of air going on the top. In fact, that's probably another con of this case. The airflow is a little bit limited because it's all one piece of aluminum that's bridged together, and the fact that the side panels are, generally just tempered glass, it tends to retain more heat in. Well, that being said, you still have some areas where airflow is pretty much adequate. So the back has one exhaust area that's relatively huge and is enough to place a 140 mil fan that will get you plenty of airflow. And then on the side of the case, there's also an area which sucks in air or blows out air, depending on how you have your fan layout set up, so that it makes it really easy to go through. And also on the bottom, there's an open chamber where the air flows for your PSU, and it flows for the radiator, whatever it is that you're installing on that side, because generally on this side, it's relatively open. So it's not the best airflow inside a case that I've seen and that I've built in the past. However, it's really not all that horrible, but I do think that at 300 bucks, the lack of the rubber grommets and the lack of better airflow does make it a little bit kind of a hard sell depending on what you're trying to do. If this is the type of build you're looking for, and this is the type of quality or look that you're going for, it's fantastic, and I wouldn't downplay the case at all for that matter. Another thing that I really liked about it is how the side panels just pop off. There's a button on the back, you press it, and the tempered glass just simply comes out so easily. Very, very nicely designed, much better than any other manufacturer's case that I've seen when it comes to taking off side panels. It's a lot easier than having to screw things in and screw things out, or even their push clips, which used to be good. This one is a lot easier to use. So at $300, is this case worth it? I'll really let you guys decide based on what I just explained to you. In my opinion, if you're gonna go with a distro plate and you're gonna use a custom loop build like that, it's gonna be the best case that you can go for if you're looking for this look. If you're planning to do a custom loop with tubes, the way I've done without using a distro plate, I would probably advise you guys to steer away from this case and spend $300 on another case from Inwin that has more room on the inside. If you want to do an all-in-one type build or use an all-in-one cooler, you've got plenty of space to do that kind of runs as well. And you also have plenty of space, so naturally if you're going to do some kind of air cooling. Now, when it comes to air cooling, because you need more passive air flowing across of it, it's probably going to be a bit warmer than you would have liked. The temperatures inside this case are not going to be super friendly for air cooling, and I think that if you really want to buy this case and you're looking for an air cooled one, again, probably stay away from this case and go with something else. That doesn't mean you can't get it. Also depends on what you're doing. And I really mean that in the terms of if you're trying to push your computer really hard with overclocking and whatnot, you know, in that case, you probably want to stay from air cooling or away from air cooling altogether. But if you decide to go that route because of budget and whatnot, then again, $300 spending on a case, I'd rather tell you guys to go and spend that on a cooler instead of on a case. So who is this case really for? The enthusiast. To the enthusiast that wants a very nice looking case made of solid quality and that will give them a look that there is not really other competitors capable of giving in this kind of format. So overall, I think it's a thumbs up from my perspective. I do like the case, and I'm not just saying that because Inwin sent me the case. I actually mean that. I think the case is actually really nice. So with that, I'll let you guys decide what you think. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys would purchase this case or if you think it's overpriced, or what you would change inside this case to make it more user-friendly and basically be more worth its price tag of $300 US. It was absolutely a pleasure for me to build it, although the pains that I just described to you guys were there and were pretty much, you know, serious pains. But again, I appreciate you guys sticking through to the end of this video. If you're new to my channel, please hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel while you're here so it can help it grow, and I'll make more content like this for you guys as well, in addition to other stuff that I always do. So thanks again, and I will see you guys on my next one. Peace out.